For a long time, whilst I've been practicing Buddhism or working on a path of awakening, thinking about waking up, moving towards waking up, whatever you want to call it, I did think a lot, but I thought that awakening was going to be this thing for the thinking mind, up here. It was going to be a freedom of the mind, that there would be this still, clear, icy mind space that would, just give me kind of peace and freedom. And at that time, I didn't really have much going on like around here. And I say around here, I mean emotionally. I felt really, just unable to connect to the emotional aspect of life. And then what happened to me, and I think what happens to most people as you start or continue to move on the path, and self-structures start to fall away, and old conditioning starts to release, and you could say that you see through delusions, you have insight into the way this is, the way things are. What you start to realize is that this isn't really a path of the mind. Well, it is, it's involved, but actually awakening is a path of love. So a lot of people might hear that and be put off because, of exactly what I just said. We're not too familiar with this emotional realm. And when we think of love, we might think of maybe romantic love or our archetypes of love from the past, which are often pretty messed up. I know my traditional archetype of love from my past wasn't particularly healthy, really. So what do we mean by love, or what do I mean when I talk about love? If I'm saying awakening is a path of love, what do I mean? And I'd say in the most fundamental way, the deepest, most connected way, love is the open availability to be with whatever is here in life without pushing it away or trying to pull something else in to change the situation. You could also call it, which is really pragmatic, it's something I heard from a teacher of mine, that love, universal love, unconditional love, is the non-dwelling in aversion. Now, these are slightly different descriptions of love than you might have heard. But for me, at the time when I heard that, the non-dwelling in aversion, that was really powerful because I didn't have this open-hearted capacity yet. But I did have an idea what that might feel like, the non-dwelling in aversion. I knew what aversion was. I felt it in my life a lot of the time. I felt things arising in my life and I would push them away quite a lot. I'd avert myself from them. So then in my practice, I was able to really feel into that. What would it be to not dwell in an aversion to conditions, to life, and explore it really? And by doing that, by exploring that pragmatically and feeling into it, what I was starting to do was break down the barriers of thought and self and resistance around this capacity of heart to love. And by not dwelling in aversion, it might seem really simple at first. Well, it is simple. It's always simple because you've just got what's right here. and you're feeling into, not necessarily thinking about, I mean, thoughts are there, but you're feeling into where is there the pushing and pulling on the present experience. But by not dwelling in aversion, things start to calm down. That's certainly my experience. The defense mechanisms of the mind that wrapped around the vulnerability of the heart, you could say. You know, it felt a bit like that, like this tight cage around the heart, which I now know is a heart, an unbound heart of love, you know, a loving heart that's available to meet life with love. But at the time I didn't feel that. It just felt like defense mechanisms, just felt like the cage. Maybe an inkling that there was an availability there, but yeah, this cage was pretty solid. But by not dwelling in aversion, so not dwelling in the defense mechanisms that were pushing me away from life and connection and people, it slowly softened. That cage, maybe the gaps between the bars got looser, or it just started to relax and open. And that's really enough. That's really enough. Because if you keep going there again and again, and you keep meeting that avertive habit, you know, the habit to move away from life, with just gentle acceptance and allowing, at some point, you start to welcome what's here. Not as a person, not as a self. The heart begins to open and welcome what's here. And this is love. This is the fruition of love in the heart. So what I said before, well, you know, what do I mean by love? Yeah, it's that availability to what's here without pushing or pulling on experience, to just be able to, as a being, be with this life fully, and feel this life fully. And awakenings, I mean, this is it. This is what the path of awakening is. It's opening up that faculty, that loving faculty, that allowing, aware, open faculty of being fully to this life, so that it's no longer controlled by the defense mechanism as self that propels us into aversion away from life. We see that selfing mechanism was just delusive all along. It was never anybody's fault. It's never really to blame. But it was a mechanism that kept us distant energetically and emotionally from life by closing around us, closing around the heart. So as we awaken, we feel that actually that selfing mechanism is not needed anymore. There's something else right here that is natural and available and open, loving, kind and connected, that is deeply true, and deeply human as well, deeply human, that is our true nature, that can just open to life and meet life fully. So the awakening path, even though it might feel, certainly at the beginning, well, not just at the beginning, throughout, might feel like you're doing a lot of mind work, you know, and you are, to an extent, that is what it is. But it's worth bearing in mind that the word in Sanskrit in Buddhism is chitta, which is the heart mind. There is no differentiation in Sanskrit between the mind and the heart, the emotional faculty and the faculty of cognition, awareness, presence. They're not two. But obviously in the West we've got the thinking mind and the emotional body. So even though it might feel like you're in the mind doing a lot of work on this path of awakening, It's really only when we're able to let go into that vulnerable being, that vulnerable, loving aspect and allowing aspect of life, that awakening truly blossoms. So it's fair to say that this path of awakening is a path of love.